The house, this looks to me like it's later. We're right in this room. This is the area off the kitchen part of the house. All right. Now, Beth, is this what you tore down? Or is this Pat's house? Well, I see a 1927 Packard in there, but I'm not too good at the other car, although from here it looks like it's a Marmon. Well, the headlights on the Marmon were different, don't you remember? A little shot across the lagoon, the water lily pond, which people say, where is it? And I don't know where it is. Have you ever seen anything like this, Beth?
She's not in the room.
She's not here? Oh, she's out there arranging things. There was another gate which went to another part of the property. There are your blue vases, Janice.
They're there.
Yeah, okay. I'm not getting much out of her this evening. She's really a very talkative person. Now, the little bridge went across the mouth of the lagoon and to the other part of the property. See, the Henry owned the whole lagoon all the way around. 70-some acres. He had the same trouble that some others of us have had when the public has easy access to the lake. They come and party and are noisy and leave a mess. It's too bad. Another little view with that bridge in the background. There's Alice Fraser and Bee Fraser in the boat. And, no, can't see grandmother there. Earlier picture of the house, I thought, but you know, that's a 1932 car, I think. So it's got to be winter and the leaves are off the ivy. Now, there's our entry hall, the front door, the lock and everything just the same, the paneling intact, the floor beautiful as ever. And the McNaughtons have done a nice job of bringing suitable furniture in. Look the other way as you come in, out towards the lake. The beautiful staircase. Now, this is the way the Rhodes had this house. This is the same fireplace. But look, glass doors, more simple wood arrangement around the doors. The metal.
The metal is different.
Yeah.
The fascia is different.
Mary Clapp was never known for superb taste. Love mirrors, and she shouldn't have. She didn't look that good. Now, Beth is going to have to
Either of you know this lady? Or know of her?
Well, Norton didn't think so either. I don't know what's so funny about it. He was my Boy Scout leader, matter of fact. Our camp out was over at the Outcall's place. Mr. Outcall was another one of those unusual gentlemen that lasted a long, long time. Had a nice home on Silicon Lake. Anyhow, we camped out there. Supposedly left us in charge of the Doten boys. That didn't work very well. We went home to bed. Oh, I cleverly put my bedroll on an amp trail, and that didn't work at all. Well, anyhow, Norton really was a public-spirited person, and he did his best for the Boy Scouts. The dining room. Another look at the dining room the other way. I think I like it better the way the Beth has done it. Huh?
That tapestry, a couple back.
Yeah.
I believe that was donated to Annie Wright's school.
Oh.
By Henry Rhodes.
And the family really suffered over that. And 4 years later, they completed this house with that house included in it as kind of a shrine to Ed. Now, by 1939, the great sadness apparently had worn off a bit, and they decided it was time to sell and move on. Berdella wasn't terribly well. In fact, after they left here, she didn't last much longer. But there was a music room and library in that part of the house, and it's hard to adjust yourself when you look in there. And another problem is there was a door over there behind the piano. So there's that part of the house as it did look then. And there was for the billiard room and the library, a nice cozy place for Henry to be comfortable.
Any of the books left?
I don't think any of that's left. Well, most of them, as I look in there, are those series, speeches of the presidents.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Written,
Yeah.
19th century.
Yeah. Oh, there's a set of Bulwer Lytton. Now that's pretty hot stuff. Yeah. Okay, this picture is here because of what's behind the fence in the background. Incidentally, the group happens to be the group that ran the Chinese out of Tacoma.
Oh, really?
Right here is Mayor Weisbach. Oh, I didn't bring I always forget that thing.
With the beard?
Mayor Weisbach with a white beard, yeah. And he was in favor of running the Chinese out. This is the episode that turned Tacoma into a blue-collar town and a democratic town, not Republican. Very seldom could a Republican win office in Tacoma. And whether you were for running the Chinese out or against it determined your political party. So it left its mark on Tacoma for a great many years. But behind that fence up there, split cedar rails, lovely stuff, was where the Rhodes Brothers store ended up. You're having the picture taken here at 11th and Broadway.
Oh, gee.
11th and Broadway, yeah.
Wow.
1885, November, in the rain. They used wagons, they walked the Chinese, they got them out to Lakeview, they put them in a warehouse. When the train came through heading south, they stopped the train and pushed them into boxcars and sent them off to Portland. That was it. And we had almost no Chinese in Tacoma till, World War II.
Oh, really?
Oh, several hundred. They would work for $1 a day in the mills. The white man had to have $1.75. And that was, and the Knights of Labor were just becoming active, and they were very strong in that group. Well, here we are, same scene, 11th and Broadway, same angle, everything. And that's the first Rhodes Brothers department store. And the Harbine family and Judge Snell, they were almost threatened before they would build this building for Henry. And it was up to 1907, it looked like this. And a few years later, Henry said, I've got to have more room. We're going to need 2 more floors. They weren't interested in doing it. And the Harbines, Harbine Monroe, some of you, sure. Well, and the Snells, that's Peg Snyder, isn't it? Wasn't it? Anybody remember? Well, anyhow, a family that could afford to improve their real estate. And it turned out that Henry said, all right, if you'll give me a certain kind of a lease, I will build the top 2 floors. And he did. And it was lovely. At the top floor, they had the penthouse, where it was really just a big community room. And then the tea room, which was a destination for a lot of people. Even the businessmen would go up there for lunch. Here's the front of the store. And it was a department store, I must admit. And I see some horse manure in the streets. I don't think Henry would have allowed that if he'd seen it. Anyway, the window arrangements were usually very charming. And another thing that Henry did was always have delivery service. And this is the back. You see, there's a little continuity here, believe it or not. You know, we were talking about the Orr house. Well, there's the cottage in the background. Do you see that little white building?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, yeah. Well, let's see. I would say that's about 1910. Anybody else want to venture a guess? It's a beautiful window. Now this was a department store, and the big item for Henry was originally coffee, tea, spices. That's what he opened first in Tacoma, and it was a success, and he added some dishes and other tableware. And you know, he started this in 1892, and 93 was one horrible panic. And Henry came through it just fine. And the three other big stores that had a lot of porcelain and dishes and silverware, they went belly up. And the thing was that Henry was had a very small inventory. He wasn't caught with things that he paid high prices for and had to sell for high prices. There was a revenue act that went through where the imported porcelains could come through 40% less. And when that happened, these other stores with the big inventory were trapped, and they actually closed down. Henry was able to buy up their bought up their stuff for a song. So there's Henry doing that in 93 when we actually had 15 banks in town, and when the panic passed, we only had 5. It was a tough time. Well, the toys. Henry found out early on that if he had toys in his store, the kids would drag the mothers in. Yep, he was just a super merchandiser. He loved it. The tea room, and it hadn't changed much, and most of us were still going to lunch up there. This is, I think, in the roof garden, and I don't recognize a soul. I was looking for maybe Alice Fraser or some familiar face, but I didn't find a one. Now this picture, we're in dry goods, and now Brother Sandoll here, he might be able to help me, but when I looked at this picture, I thought that's Rex Raudebush with the hat and cane. And probably Emily.